Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're doing another update to the war in Ukraine because some pretty major advances by Ukrainian forces have been made in the last few days that are definitely newsworthy, and surprisingly enough, I haven't really seen a lot of mainstream coverage of this situation so far, which is pretty surprising because the information is out there, and as it stands right now, things are not looking good for the Russian military. In fact, the Ukrainians have put up stunning advances in the last few days that have, honestly, I feel like blindsided the world in a way. Ukraine has been holding out pretty successfully from the Russian invasion for about 6.5 months now, but I don't think anyone could have anticipated that in their counteroffensive and actually in their attempts to push the Russian forces back, especially in the northeastern part of the country, that they would be so successful so quickly. But as it stands, it appears the Russian chain of command is completely collapsing and soldiers are basically desperately trying to save themselves. There have been reports of Russian soldiers actually running from Ukrainian forces dressed as civilians to try and cover their path, literally dropping their weapons and equipment behind them. Over the last few days, thousands of pieces of Russian equipment have been seized by Ukrainian forces after being abandoned, primarily in Kharkiv Oblast, which is an area in the northeastern side of Ukraine that also borders Russia directly. Kharkiv is the major city in the area, and it's actually been a pretty big focal point of the war so far, but in the last few days, Ukrainians fully recaptured the city of Kharkiv and even pushed further deeper into Russian reinforcements. So in a video I made recently talking about this subject, they had declared that over like 700 to 1,000 square kilometers of land had been reclaimed from the Russians by Ukrainian forces. As of today's video and today's information, that number has increased to over 3,000 kilometers of Russian territory, or I should say Russian claimed territory, retaken by Ukrainian forces. In fact, the Ukrainians have made such stunning advances in the Kharkiv Oblast that they've actually fully pushed Russian forces out of the region entirely. Multiple cities, including Ternova, Udi, Izium and Kupiansk have been completely reclaimed by the Ukrainian forces, and pretty much everything on the western bank of the Oskil River as of September 11th has been reclaimed by Ukrainian forces. Now this map is from the Institute for the Study of War, and as of yesterday actually, the Russians fully announced their retreat from the Kharkiv Oblast, which is the area immediately surrounding Kharkiv. As you can see by the map, the Ukrainians have pushed all the way to the western bank of the Oskil River, and according to reports, it appears that they might be ready to cross the banks of that river and start pushing further into Russian-held territory in the coming hours. Keep in mind, though, the Ukrainians have done this in only a matter of days. Throughout the around 6.5 months that this war has been taking place, Russia has struggled to claim a lot of the land that they formerly claimed. They've been going through extreme levels of casualties and equipment in order to claim these territories, and then when being pushed back by the Ukrainians, essentially collapsed. Apparently, the Russian military's collapse running from the Ukrainians in the Kharkiv Oblast was so bad that once again, thousands of pieces of equipment from vehicles to weaponry to ammunition have been seized by Ukrainians, and now video footage has been circulating on social media showing Ukrainian forces pulling up into settlements and villages to clear them of Russian forces in the area, and Ukrainian civilians gleefully welcoming them into their communities once again after months of occupation. Ukrainian forces have pushed Russian forces back so badly that they have reconnected the Ukraine mainland to the Russian border. And on top of that, it'll actually be hard for Russia to ever attempt to reclaim these territories again, because as Ukrainian forces have been sweeping through the area, moving from settlement to settlement, they've also been destroying all Russian ground lines of communication in the area. Reports have indicated that Russian soldiers are also now negotiating terms of surrender in order to drop their weapons, and that countless Russian soldiers have either surrendered as prisoners of war, have fled the Ukrainian forces once again dressed as civilians, dropping weapons behind, and their retreat has been so bad that a good amount of military equipment has been left behind to the Ukrainians. A pretty high level of success has been achieved with Western equipped weapons for the Ukrainians, including HIMARS systems that have been able to completely eliminate Russian columns of troops. Considering the fact that the Russians not only were the superior equipped and trained force going into the Ukraine war, but also with more manpower, it is absolutely stunning to see the Ukrainian advances in the way that they have. Simply put, as it stands right now, the Ukrainian chain of command in the military is performing better than the Russians. One part that a lot of people haven't considered about the Russian force that has basically really harmed them in this entire war is their military is quite inexperienced. Now, many of the forces that have been deployed inside of Ukraine in what Putin calls his special operation are forces that have never seen legitimate combat before. In fact, many of the people who have been deployed over the last 6 months were basically misled on why they were being sent to Ukraine in the first place, and the devastating blows to the Russian military where they've lost territory and also basically dealt with high levels of casualties and losses has crippled the war effort for the Russians. As it stands right now, the morale among Russian troops is at an all-time low. It's basically at ground floor level. They're not getting very many significant wins, and even though they might be inflicting serious actual basically casualties against the Ukrainians too, because let's be honest, the Ukrainians are losing troops too, it's not enough to actually boost their morale, and they're not making enough gains and enough territorial advances to actually keep the morale up. The Russian failure to control their own retreat in this area, though, is yet another indicator that the Russian chain of command in their military is not performing well either. Not only is their logistics and intelligence side of thing not outperforming Ukraine due to the help of Western countries in NATO like the United States and the United Kingdom, but the Russians don't seem to be able to complete most of any objective that they create. Not only does this have a negative impact on the war effort overall and the morale of their troops, but it's also leading to a situation where the chain of command and the commanders of the military are starting to panic. This is evident as they basically booked it out of the Kharkiv Oblast in the first place, leaving behind all this equipment and all of this stuff for the Ukrainians to claim. An organized military force would not have to do this. As it stands right now, the Ukrainians are making what we can only say are very impressive gains. And in fact, this isn't the only area and only theater of the war where the Ukrainians have made gains. Small gains in the Luhansk Oblast from September 11th, it's basically been confirmed now that small areas and pockets of territory have been reclaimed by the Ukrainians in the south of the country as well. While not as inherently successful as the northeastern approach, it is still somewhat successful for the Ukrainians, and with continued effort, they can continue to reclaim more and more of their territory. Now, keep in mind, the current counteroffensive is not currently projected to be able to end the war. As it stands right now, Ukraine will not be able to fully beat Russia out of their country in the coming weeks, but if these continued trends of basically inopportunity for the Russians, terrible leadership from their higher-up officials, and their abandonment of basically territory they've claimed continues, it's really only a matter of time before Ukraine continues to push them further and further out of their territory and continue to make the war more and more unsuccessful and pointless for the Russians. As this continues to happen, I will continue to update you guys on all of the newest information happening right now, so make sure to stay tuned here on my YouTube channel if you would like to hear more information about the Ukraine war as it continues. The Ukrainian counteroffensive is nothing short of brilliant as it stands right now, and continuing to watch this historical moment in live time is actually phenomenal. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus saying glory to Ukraine and signing out.